In 2013, a chief scout at a Turkish football club was receiving hundreds of player requests from agents with no system to evaluate them. That Excel file became one of football's leading data platforms. Today, Comparisonator filters 200,000 players across 271 leagues down to the exact profile a club needs. Al Nassr, Rangers, Besiktas, and FC Dallas use it to find, compare, and sign the right player. Everything inside a football club's sporting department is about to be replaced. Our guest today is building the infrastructure that will run football recruitment. Furkan Yagiz, co-founder and COO of Comparisonator.
Welcome to the Sport Businessman Podcast. Today, we host Furkan Yagiz, a Chief Operations Officer of Comparisonator, the AI football data platform that covers more than 200,000 players across 271 leagues. One of the sharpest minds in the business of football analytics. Furkan, welcome to the Sport Businessman Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming and your kind words. I'm excited to be here.
Splendid. So can you introduce us about your background in data and how it led to Comparisonator and building the platform?
So I graduated from business management, but I had an engineering background while I'm doing my majors. We started with building the Comparisonator, an industry-leading figure, and also my co-founder, Tarkan Batkun. And he was, at that time when I was in uni, he was leading the Bursa Spor as a chief scout. And he also worked in many clubs in like Fenerbahce, Galatasaray, Roma, and also Altınordu, which is an academy-led club as well. So at that time, he somehow figured out, back at 2013, he somehow figured out how to respond every player requests coming to the club from agents to give them out whether they are fitting their squad in some way, in a performance level, in a suitability manner, in a tactic, playing style, the transfer vision, whatsoever. And so they somehow found a way in a very what some would say is an ancient way in the data world, is an Excel spreadsheets, calculating the player performance based on the few event metrics, I should say. And at that time, so he found out a way to evaluate player performance, and this becoming a huge hassle for the recruitment parts of the clubs, and also the decision makers themselves, such as club presidents, sportive directors, even head coaches being involved in the player transfers. So he showed up and he wanted to build up a new platform at that time. I had also a friend who's also co-founder of Comparisonator, leading the tech, and we built the Comparisonator from the beginning of finding out, eliminating the unnecessary time in the player recruitment. So it started from there. So at that time, we were just trying to show up basic comparisons between player performances, seasonally, weekly, whether they should, as the name suggests, Comparisonator is coming from comparing players. That was basically the only feature back then when we started. But once we showed that there was like a big opportunity, a big upside to address many problems in the club management, starting from the sportive decisions to the club management, we saw a huge upside how a tech can, hassle with all those problems in the clubs. So today maybe it's becoming more and more important how an AI can transform the world of, the sports in general, like we've just becoming so efficient in a way that, some jobs are getting lost, some new jobs are coming in. So right now, what we're doing is we try to build up the AI agents for football clubs to address their data analytics needs and also their management needs. So it possibly in 5 to 10 years, some of the jobs inside the clubs will be replaced by the AI agents because, as let's say for a data analyst job, for us, some parts of the scouting job, which in this case, including, analyzing the data itself, which is indeed analyzed by a human, but with the methods that can be replaced with, the most suitable algorithms that can be used to estimate the player performance in the next few years, or maybe just evaluating a player performance in a game. So, but currently, the services that we help with the decision makers is, looking over for thousands of options. We give them an understanding of which players that uh, they have to watch, because the decision 100% needs to, require a live scouting element. You have to watch the player maybe at least 4 or 5 games, covering 10 hours of watching time. Possibly you have to also meet with the player, speak with their agent, and many other factors coming in. But at least for the performance point of sight, we try to simulate a player potential in another league and or in the same league, whether that can play depending on the team tactics, depending on the team budget, depending on many other factors that currently AI covers for us. So that's pretty much it, I would say.
So when a sports team owner today looks to build its sporting success, the infrastructure to create sporting success, and in 10 years uh, thinks about having AI agents that drive the sporting success, then which are the roles that are going to be remaining in the sporting departments, and which instead are going to be completely uh, agentic AI driven?
Yeah, yeah. So I would say definitely like a sub-level management tasks would be covered by AI agents. For example, creating the dashboards that we would need, some of the comparative studies or some of the data analyst jobs, which required different ways of suggesting algorithms that you would use to estimate the player performance, or comparing and benchmarking against your league. So there will be like an optimal studies around. And for let's say an owner in the club can get a general dashboard around how their sportive team, running things inside the club, whether they have making a good decisions or bad decisions based on the data. And some of those employees that have been, putting these things on and presenting these to the board, may be also replaced by the AI agents as well. But currently, what Comparisonator suggests is we helping the all club employees, and including the scouts, analysts, how they could find a player that they requiring, or how they could, easily filter out which players that they have to spend more time on. Because I would definitely say that, when everybody has an access to the data uh, that everybody can access, there would be two different ways of, to make your work differentiated from each other, to get a competitive edge. One is you'd get another data set that could be, integrating more perfectly in the youth data, or maybe your training data, your physical data, or some of the data that others cannot access to. So that could be a barrier there that you could create your own competitive advantage. And second is, of course, the live eye side. So Comparisonator will probably cover the rest of it, where whatever you can get suggested by the AI systems, by the data you could find from, the players, everything that happens on the pitch, that what we call it event data. So it includes, the falls suffered, the dribblings, the passes, successful passes to final third. So all those events plus the physical metrics, which you would say, the distances that covered, how many times the players making high intensity runs. So all those metrics that comes from deep learning algorithms, to, whether this player is physically performing well or not. So these two things will be covered, and the rest of the needs will be covered from providers like us. And hopefully we're trying to, get as many the user data coming from the industry professionals that we're working with.
We found it interesting also to learn um, when launching Comparisonator, how was the commercial model built? Did it start as a software as a service platform, and today is moving more into building agentic AI um, system software? Could you explain to us what has been the commercial growth of the product, and who your first customers were, how you sold it, also in an industry that is slow to adopt, traditionally like football, and how the revenue model has evolved and
Yeah.
scaled today?
Yeah. So in the beginning, we're starting as a consulting firm. But our idea was to build this as a software as a service platform, because in the industry it's pretty much same practice held by, other firms like Y-Scout, like the Stats Bomb, and you would say right now on by Huddle. So we wanted to, focus on, as a software as a service part. Then we started with the teams from Turkish clubs and also MLS, which Besiktas, Trabzonspor. We work with FC Dallas, LA Galaxy. They also helped us a lot in growing Comparisonators knowledge, specifically focus on the recruitment part. So we wanted to first cover everything what you need from, the recruitment part. So we vertically focused on the most valuable market that we consider, is the player transfers. And we also work with some of the player agents who are trying to elevate their work on, presenting their players' suitability, or communicating with their players in a data-driven mindset, because also the agency world has changed from uh, a regular communication between a friend to a friend, um, asking day-to-day stuff, whether a player is happy or not in the club or in the country that he's now playing for. Now it's becoming more of the development responsibility over uh, a player agent to, manage their career, starting from, their, of course, under 14, 13, a youth development to where you'd suggest even after management, wealth management, if a player's, successfully um, playing in a professional level and also gaining an access. And they also, their careers also continuing. Many player agents also representing the coaching stuff as well. Some of the top leading head coaches are also presented by agencies that we are all know of. And so we're basically back to the topic. We wanted to firstly, finish the recruitment business where you'd need from a scout to cover and data analyst to cover, or even, a coaching staff to cover when you'd need an insight, an actionable insight about your player transfer decision. And secondly, we wanted to, go on to the other horizontal levels where we wanted to cover the coaching part, and also the club management part, which also includes the finances, plus the some sort of enterprise resource planning, where we can also suggest players connecting to their performance outputs. And the final idea may be creating an intelligence hub where in some of the other sectors where you'd see, such as in the medical sector, such as in the app sector, mobile app sector, there would be a different data sources that can be gathered from, registering your some of their unique data sets that can be public and can be searched over the other partners inside the system. So let's say you would also connect your own academy inside Comparison and you somehow suggest those players to the other teams that are looking for a specific replacement for their, under 19 team or reserve team or even their A team. So they could easily access this part where then you would not need to be involving in many negotiations between an agent's representations or a team representations. So it would be just immediately direct access to all those data that is not publicly available. So things are going pretty much, horizontally inside the football clubs. That's what we, first figured it out. In football, there's a lot of things that can be developed inside. Some of my friends calling me, saying that you're just making a real life football manager in your business. And I say, yeah, it's just right now we're just in the beginning of this transformation, I must say. But starting from what we can calculate, what we can measure, we're going to, address all those parts of a football business.
Splendid. And can you also tell us, since last week, there was a report from Deloitte of the growth of women's sports, and there's a lot of investment that is also flowing into women's football, specifically in English football, but also other leagues like Italian, German, and European women's football, as well as in the United States, which has seen the first exit um, from the franchises in the last year. Could you tell us also the growth of Comparison in the women's landscape
Yeah, it's
and what it
thank
looks
you.
like for the next scale of growth?
Yeah, that's why we introduced the woman platform, possibly first in the market, as far as I know. We wanted to, because we saw there's a lots of investment coming in inside the world of female football, and um, we wanted to address the analytics world specifically designed for women football. When you compare it to the men's football, the whole tactics, the performance scoring, even what would you say is a league coefficients, where from league to another league, the league difficulties are different from each year because all particular countries are developing itself. They're focusing more on the global transfers. But I would say that the US was one of the leaders in this, women football enterprise. So we wanted to, firstly, our data analyst team to try to focus more onto the women football, speaking with the coachings, speaking with the decision makers in the clubs, because even the tactical landscape changes from men's football. So we were focusing on developing there. And, even right now, from last year to this year, I would suggest we made a study at 2020 to 2026 season, there has been almost 20-25% more players now playing in the women's football. So it's such an interesting number and many investments coming in. So we wanted to also be more visible there and try to specifically focus our products on the women football as well.
Splendid. Furkan, we are so happy to have hosted the introduction of Comparisonator, starting from how the platform was founded, how the commercial model was built, the unique selling proposition that Comparisonator gave to professional clubs and sporting directors. Also, we found it very, very interesting to learn in 10 years what optimizing sporting uh, success will look like, and what professional sports teams and organizations will have to adapt to in the industry. We also found it interesting to learn about the women's football specific product, and we look forward to seeing the growth of Comparisonator and hosting your experience again in the future. Again, it was an honor.
Furkan, thank you.
Thank you, Eduardo.